Before cities, before names, before history itself, there was ice. It breathed across the land like a living thing, cold and eternal. And beneath that breath, tiny fires flickered. The first humans daring to survive in a world not made for them. At the edge of the world, the sun rose only to fade again. The air was sharp enough to cut through bone and the silence heavier than the snow itself. In this frozen desert, only the tracks spoke. Quiet messages left by giants who walked before dawn, moving through eternity. The rivers no longer flowed. They had become roads of glass, holding the memory of water in their frozen hearts. Here, humans built homes from the bodies of the beasts they hunted. Bone became wall, hide became roof, the living and the dead sheltering each other against the cold. Fire was their second sun, fragile, hungry, alive. Without it, they were only shadows in an endless night. They walked toward the horizon as if it might give them food. Behind them, the smoke of their camp rose like a promise that someone would return. For hours they waited, breath held, heart steady, listening to the ground for the heavy rhythm of life. At last, the giants emerged, living mountains wrapped in fur, older than memory, older than fear itself. The wind carried no mercy. It tore words from their mouths and replaced them with silence. They spoke only with their eyes now. They studied the land like scripture. Every hollow, every drift of snow could decide whether they would live or starve. They waited for hours, motionless, their blood thick with cold and silence. Somewhere beyond the mist, the earth itself was moving and heavy, slow, alive. The first sound was not a roar. It was a pulse. The ground itself began to breathe. They came like shadows from a dream, ancient, patient, powerful. To see them was to remember how small a human could be. To kill such a creature was both sin and salvation. They feared the beasts, but feared hunger more. When the wind turned, he raised the torch, a small defiance against the endless white. The silence shattered. Fire met fury. The frozen plain roared with the sound of life and death colliding. A single throw could feed a village, or bury it beneath the snow. When the beast fell, the world trembled. They had taken down a god made of fur and silence. No one spoke. The victory felt too heavy to celebrate. The air was thick with the weight of what they had done. For a night, the cold retreated. The smell of smoke and fat was the scent of survival. Proof that tomorrow would come again. They offered the first bite to the fire, a gift to the spirit of the beast. To hunt was to ask permission, and to live was to remember. They built monuments of bone, not to boast, but to mark the debt. The animal's body became their shelter, their story, their warning. By the fire, the children learned the world, not through words, but through memory carved in ivory and flame. Each cut was a prayer. They shaped what they had lost, giving the giant a second life in their hands. The elder spoke of the first mammoth. Then came a change they couldn't name. The air softened and water began to move again, a sound they had almost forgotten. At first it was beautiful, the ice singing as it died. But beauty, like warmth, was a stranger they didn't yet trust. Each spring fewer came. Their trumpets grew faint, their trails faded, and the plains began to forget the sound of giants. They walked farther each season and brought back less. The old songs of victory became whispers of endurance. They found a calf one morning, frozen mid-step. It had not died in battle, but in silence. The old man said the earth was reclaiming its own. That morning, only one remained. It moved without sound, swallowed by mist, as if the world itself wished to forget the weight of its steps. That night she dreamed of thunder without rain, of rivers melting through the earth, of beasts walking beneath green skies. She said the world was changing its skin. At dawn, the ice broke open, not with violence but with relief. The earth exhaled for the first time in 1,000 years. The hunters listened, a sound they could not name at first. It was water laughing again. The sky no longer pressed down. It opened, vast, blue, filled with wings. The cold had lost its crown. They hunted again, but the prey was quicker now. The age of giants had ended, and so had the age of certainty. They moved into the mountains, carving homes from stone. The wind could no longer reach them, but neither could the past. To prove they had lived, they left their hands on the stone, a promise to whoever would come after. We were here. They gave the mammoth a new life, one that could not die with the cold. The ivory remembered what the earth tried to erase. Then came green, fierce and brilliant. The ice retreated and the earth began to breathe again. What had been survival became awe. The ice gave way to water and the water to life. The river that once slept beneath their feet now sang again. The song that never truly ended. She placed the carving into the stream, a farewell gift to a world that no longer existed. The water carried memory farther than footsteps ever could. He had seen both worlds, the frozen and the living, the silence of ice and the noise of spring, and he knew that one would always follow the other. They built one last fire, not for warmth, but for remembrance. Around it, they told the same story, until words faded into sparks. The wind never forgot them. It carried their voices across the plains, the hunters, the giants, the fires that once burned against the dark. Beneath the glaciers, breath waited, air from another age, sealed inside the earth. When the ice broke, it spoke again. Seasons became centuries. Forests rose where bones had rested. The mammoth's world sank beneath roots and rain, but its story endured. They began to draw, not to remember the hunt, but to remember being alive. In those lines, the world learned to speak. Today, the wind still crosses the same paths. The bones sleep beneath moss, the rivers still follow their frozen maps. The world has changed its face, but not its memory. The ice melted, but it never left. It became the rivers, the clouds, the breath we share. We are the children of that thaw, the last echo of the endless ice.